Hey guys, welcome back to A Seat at My Table. This is Chef Luis Sanchez. And as you know, Christmas is only a couple of days away, and I'm going to show you step by step how to make an amazing spinach and artichoke dip. It's the perfect thing to put in the middle of a table and have a great group around and just share. And it's awesome because you can do some talking and eating, and it's flavorful and it's awesome. So I'm going to take you back to the kitchen and show you step by step how to make it. Alright, spinach and artichoke dip. Awesome for the holidays, awesome to share, and actually pretty easy to make. I don't know if you watched, hopefully you did, but when we made mac and cheese, we made a roux, which is a mixture of some sort of fat, in this case butter and flour, and that thickens up sauces and different things. So that's kind of how we're going to begin to make this. I want to show you everything that we're going to do because this is very simple. Everything is going to go in a big saute pan or saucepan, and we're going to switch the cameras over there so you can see how it goes down. But basically we're going to start with the roux, which is, like I said, the butter and the flour, and then we have some spinach. This is fresh spinach. We're going to use about 4 ounces of it. Don't worry too much if you have a little bit less or a little bit more. I like spinach, so I have this baby spinach and I'm going to add whole. You can cut it too if you want. The bag normally comes with 8 ounces, so just eyeball half of the bag. I don't want you to be getting scales out and complicating your life. Just if there's 2 handfuls in the bag, just grab 1 handful. And then we have artichokes, and this I want to spend some time with because you could make this with fresh artichokes, in which case you have to steam them or boil them, and that takes about an hour, and then you have to wait for them to cool, and then you have to peel them, and then you have to take this little hairs out to get to the choke or the actual edible part of it. So I'm using canned. Is it going to be the same? I'm sure that the flavors are a little bit different, but still delicious. So I would suggest, especially if you're not too familiar with the dish, to just make it with the canned stuff, and that's what we have here. The ones that I bought and I would like for you to buy are the ones that are actually on water, on brine, not on oil, because we don't need the oil. So, and then this ones came whole like this, like baby artichokes like this, and then we just cut them into about 6 to 8 pieces each. And then spinach and artichoke dip also has cheese. I'm using a mixture of Jap cheese, which is a neutral cheese that melts really well, and Parmesan cheese. And I have about a cup of Parmesan here, and I'm going to use half of it in the mixture, and then I'm going to top it with the other half because this is going to finish in the oven. You want to get that gratin, beautiful color on top. And then our flour, our butter that we talked about, and then we're going to season it with salt and pepper, obviously. And we have some garlic powder. Sometimes fresh garlic is good, but garlic powder also works, and you can buy garlic powder and keep it in there for a while, a year, and then keep using it. And then we have some chili flakes. This is the kind that you get, I don't know, when you buy pizza, and you get like a little container of, or a little packet of chili flakes. If you save them, then you don't have to buy them. So those are also one of the things that if they're dried, they're fine and they last a long time. And then our liquid today is going to be 2 cups of milk. You can use milk, you can use cream. I wouldn't use 100% cream because it's going to be too thick. You can use chicken stock. You can use a mixture of chicken stock and cream. So far, our dish is completely vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian. So if you want to keep it that way, just keep it with cream or veggie stock. You don't want to jump into the chicken stock. And that's about it. So I'm going to set everything on this side of the kitchen. We're going to turn our fire on. I'm going to show you because it's really simple. And then at the end, we're going to put it in the oven and we're going to eat it. You can eat this with many things. You can do it with chips. You can do it with bread like we're doing today. And you can do it with vegetables. You can, dip zucchini sticks in it. You can do carrots. We had some, my kids and I got some bread yesterday. This is ciabatta. So we have a couple of ciabatta rolls left over. We're going to put them in the oven at the same time that our dip goes in the oven so they get warm. And we're going to slice them and we're going to use that to scoop our spinach and artichoke dip. So I will see you guys back in here shortly. All right, here we are, fire side of the kitchen, and we have our ingredients here. My saucepan, I guess it's kind of a large one today because we're making everything in one. The heat is on. I think that's the beginning of a cool song. And then we're gonna add the butter, and we're making our roux, which is butter and flour. So we're gonna melt the butter, and I love using wooden spoons. Ever since I was little, I always cook with wooden spoons, and we're just gonna move it around so it kind of moves a little bit faster. And then to the butter, we're going to add some flour. And that's going to be the base or the beginning of our roux. We're going to sprinkle our flour. And at this point, once the butter is completely melted, we're going to switch to a whisk. And why a whisk? Because it's going to be much easier to incorporate the roux with a whisk into our liquid, which in this case, as you remember, is our milk. I think I'm going to add a little more of the flour. And then I have a whisk right here. I always keep the tools that I'm going to use the most, I always keep them close to the kitchen. So I have one of those, what are they called? Like buckets or something, where I have, and in mine, my bucket, I always have a wooden spoon, a whisk, a spatula, like a silicone spatula that can take heat, and I have a pair of tongs. So those are the things I use the most in the kitchen, and then things that I don't use as much, I just keep in the drawers. You want to get your flour cooked in the butter for just a little bit, not too long. Otherwise, it also develops a little bit of color. And artichoke dip is kind of on the creamy looking side. It's not on the peanut buttery looking side. So we're almost there. And it smells nice and toasty already. So to this, we're going to add our milk. I'm going to do it with my left hand so you can see it on the camera. And I'm going to whisk with my right. And I noticed right away that my fire is now too hot because this kitchen at the new house is just kind of cool. But I'm not used to it yet. So we're going to add our liquid. And you can add little by little and you can incorporate little by little. Or you can spend a little more time with your whisk right now, which is what I like to do. Otherwise, you have to be holding it there and incorporating it little by little. And here what we're doing is we're breaking down that flour. And with the help of the whisk, and we're bringing our milk to temperature, so you want it to be warm. And then what that does is it tells us how thick our sauce is going to be. At this point, we haven't added anything. We haven't added salt, nothing. The artichokes normally have a little bit of on the liquid that it comes with, has a little bit of salt. So we want to taste before we add anything to it. And remember, we're adding Parmesan cheese and jack cheese, which already are salty. So I do anticipate adding more salt to it, but I want to make sure that we're good on that. So at this point, we sort of wait because we want to know how thick this is going to get. And remember, this is called the roux. Can somebody tell me how you spell roux? You get a free... Do we have t-shirts? We don't have t-shirts, sorry. But maybe just tell me how we spell roux. It's kind of a fun word too. I took French, so... because I already spoke Spanish, it would be silly for me to speak Spanish, but I do know how to spell it, and I'm sure people out there know how to spell it too. Alright, on camera 2, we're fancy now, we have 2 cameras, so on camera 2, you can see how this has started thickening up a little bit, and as it gets warmer, it's going to get thicker. So if you see that it's getting a little too thick, and we will see if that happens with ours, you can thin it out with a little bit of water, a little bit of stock. So don't worry, we can make adjustments. So now it's starting to thicken up. So we're going to add our artichokes, which have a good water content. So that's going to help. And we're going to add our spinach. The spinach looks like a lot, but it's going to wilt. So we're going to add maybe half of it, and we're going to mix it in. We're going to mix it in, and then you're going to see what's happening, which the spinach is going to start kind of disappearing in our mixture. I can already tell you that I'm going to need a little more liquid because my roux is very powerful, and that's okay. I have some water here that is warm, so we're going to add some water to it, about half a cup. And don't worry, the flavor is still going to be wonderful. I wish I would tell you that I did that on purpose so you see, but sometimes these things happen, so I always have water there. And it doesn't really change the flavor because you have so many good flavors going on in this dish. Okay, you can see how the spinach is starting to wilt, which means just kind of cook down, and it's easier to fold it in. I'm going to wait a little bit longer and then add the rest of the spinach. And then I'm going to taste, and then I'm going to add my seasonings. So at this point, we're going to add the rest of the spinach. If you like it in smaller bites, you can always chop it up a little bit. Remember, this is a dip, it's not a soup, so it's supposed to be a little bit on the thicker side. What do you like eating your artichoke artichoke dip with. I love it with bread. I love it with chips. I do like it with carrots because I don't know. I guess maybe because I love carrots. But feel free to tell me on the comments how you like eating your spinach dip. And do you like it with artichokes? I've seen it with no artichokes too. I just love artichokes. I think maybe I like artichokes as much as I like the spinach part on this. So you see how the spinach is now kind of all worked in there. And I'm going to add cheese. So the cheese is going to thicken things up here. So I will add a little bit more water. So good thing we have our water. So we're going to add another half a cup of water. And trust me, don't worry. There's a lot of richness that's going to happen here. So before I add my cheese, I'm going to bring this to temperature. And then I'm going to start seasoning things up. I have a spoon in here. All right, tastes good. We're going to add our garlic. This is our garlic powder. We're going to add our salt and our pepper. And this is the consistency that we want before we add our cheese. So at this point, I'm going to do another taste here because I do feel that with the amount of salt that I added, I still need a little bit more. Even when I'm going to add the Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to add a little more salt in there. And at this point, things are starting to get nice and warm. So I'm going to add my cheese. Remember, 1 cup of our jack cheese. That's about a cup right there. And then we're going to add half of the Parmesan because the other half is going to go on top and it's going to gratin on top of our dish. Oh yeah. For a second there, it wasn't looking like spinach and artichoke dip. I'm not going to lie. But it sort of comes together, you see. So don't be afraid. Water is an ingredient that doesn't really get used to much and it should. So I'm going to add a good pinch of chili flakes because that's just my thing. And by a pinch, I mean 2. And then we're going to add the parm, short for Parmesan cheese. And about half of that's going to go in. That's going to bring that nutty flavor. That's going to bring that saltiness. And it's just awesome like that. And then we're going to fold it in. We're going to do one last taste. And adjust for most likely just salt. And then this is going to go in the oven. So let me taste it one more time. And it's really good. So it's really good. Like it's got to have a little bit of salt because if it's just kind of bland and you're putting all these calories in your body, it might as well be really delicious, right? So now, camera 2, you see how it's still running. It's very cheesy, and I tasted it, so I know that I like where the flavor is right now. I have a little bit of cheese left. I could add it, but it's not a cheese dip, so it's a balance of different things. So we're going to stop it there, and when we come back, we're going to show you how we put it in the oven. It's going to be just on a broiling setting on the top. I'm going to transfer it into an oven-baked dish. That's an oven-safe dish is what I meant to say. So it's going to go in an oven-safe dish, and that's the dish in which we're going to serve it. So make sure it's kind of like a pretty one that you're comfortable sharing with your friends, and then at the same time, we're going to put our bread in. And we'll see you guys in a second, and I will show you that step. All right, we're back to spinach dip. It's really good, and I tasted it again, and I asked myself, what's going on here? What is it missing? So it was missing a little bit of, for me, Tabasco, like that acidity from Tabasco, that vinegary flavor that has, was missing in there. So I added a couple of dashes. I'm sure it's going to be down there on the ingredient list and on the recipe. So we have it here, and then we have a couple of, believe it or not, I'm a popular guy now that this YouTube thing is coming out, so I get invited to 2 parties. So we're going to take it to 2 houses. So we're going to split the spinach dip into 2. And then there's another trick. I have a cookie sheet here, and on the cookie sheet, we're going to put our bread too. So everything goes in the oven at the same time. We're going to put it in the oven for a little bit to heat it up to where we want, and then I'm going to crank it up to broil. And just keep an eye on the broiling setting because broiling settings can be dangerous. You can burn your stuff up, and you work so hard to make this happen. So now I am going to pour this into our dish, and you want to come up, kind of to the top, And when you pour anything into two, this is from my bartending days, you kind of want to do this, which is go back and forth to make sure that they're even. Otherwise, you fill one up and then you have one that's half. And I don't know if I'm doing this right and if you can see it because I might be blocking it, but you will see when I remove the saucepan. So we have them here. So they're done here, and then our bread's here. I'm going to slice the bread into thin slices. You know, you buy a cutting board, and they say it's like a non-slip cutting board, but it doesn't work. It just moves. And look, I'm going to talk to these people. So I'm cutting it, and I'm cutting it in the size in which I am going to use for the sort of the bread chips, I guess. This is a serrated knife, which is what we want to use in this case, and I'm just cutting slices that are thin enough that it's not going to fill you up with bread, but also thick enough that they can hold the dip. And I'm just going to spread them around. So you want them in one layer on top of this clean cookie sheet or half pan sheet. Spread them open. And the last thing I'm going to do is, this is very rich, so I'm not going to make you garlic bread with butter and this and that. I'm just going to make it simple. So it's some ciabatta bread that is going to be toasted in the oven. And I have some good olive oil. And I like putting things in squeeze bottles, especially when they're sealed and you don't get oil all over your fingers. And then I just like putting my finger on top, and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on the bread. That's going to add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of color. But it's not going to be as rich as if I was to give you garlic bread with spinach dip, which sounds like a lot for me. All right, cool. So I will show you one more step that I forgot, which is the Parmesan cheese that goes on top. And as soon as I find the Parmesan cheese, which is... Oh, you are such a great person to help me out because I forget. Diana, everyone, someday we'll turn the camera on and you can get to see her. So what am I doing? I'm sprinkling parm on top of our dip, and that's going to give it that golden crust and awesome color. Almost there. This is the point where if you want to put some parsley, some smoked paprika, cayenne, you can do that as well. I don't think it needs it, so I just want to do it like this. So I will see you guys soon when I go into the oven. Remember, heat it up first and then switch it to broil and get your top on both of these awesome dips to be golden brown, and then we can serve it. So I'll see you guys back in here to taste. All right, spinach dip is out of the oven. As you can see, it's nice and golden brown, and our bread is perfect. And what happened is that this was already broiling before this was done. So what do? You just take everything out, you take your spinach dip out, and then you put your bread back in there. So I would just put a nice bowl next to your dip, and I'm just placing our bread that's nicely, it's got a little crunch, but it's not overly crunchy. It's got a little bite to it still. And remember, this is ciabatta bread, so it's awesome because it will hold up to our spinach dip. I would probably put a spoon in our dip. For those of you guys who like to spoon it, and then maybe some side plates, and obviously also some napkins. And then put this in the sink. And just bring it to your next party, because this is going to make you some new friends, and it's going to make your old friends be better friends, and you're going to be invited to more parties. So I guess the one thing left to do here is to taste, and this is holiday get-together 101. So this is what you want to bring to those parties. I mean, look at that, look at that, look at that. Let me see if camera can see. It's just so cheesy and so melty and bubbly. And I am not crazy. I'm not going to put this in my mouth right away because it will burn and you will enjoy to see that face. So it's not good. So I'm going to blow on it. It's so good. It's great. I can use a drink right now, and I'm already in a holiday kind of mode. And please make this. This is going to be my lunch today. So please make this. Bring it to your next party. Make it at home. Make it for your friends. You know, cook some chicken and top it off with this. You don't have to just use it as a dip. So thank you again. This is Messy Chef Luis Sanchez, and this is A Seat at My Table, and I hope to see you guys next week.